Hello and welcome to BYJU'S IAS. Let's get started and look into the first issue. Under this issue, we shall take up 3 articles which discusses about the lockdown and an alternative strategy that needs to be followed after the gradual withdrawal of lockdown. What is the context? Prime Minister Narendra Modi recently had a video conference with the state chief ministers. In this conference, many chief ministers, including Punjab, Telangana, Karnataka and many other chief ministers gave a suggestion to the Prime Minister. They demanded that this lockdown period, which is supposed to end on April 14, be extended. Why? Because this infection is still not under control and there has been a constant increase of this infection and the number of people who have been affected by it. Therefore, the central government in all its likelihood may extend the lockdown by another 14 days. So what will the central government do now? Because the state governments have suggested, it is going to extend this lockdown by another 14 days and it will also provide all the necessary guidelines that is required to keep this infection under check. In fact, Punjab and other states like Odisha have already declared an extension till the end of April 30th and many other states are also considering the same. Another alternative was given by Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Y.S. Jagan Mohan Reddy. What was the alternative? According to this alternative, he basically wanted districts, regions or states to be categorized into 3 different color zones. What are these color zones? This can be categorized as green, or as orange or as red. So basically this is a concept known as zoning. What is the concept of zoning? Basically, when you look at zoning, there are regions, there are wards, there are neighborhoods, states or districts which are categorized and they are given a specific color code. How are they categorized? Let's say for example, these are given a color code. One is the red color code, followed by orange and then it is followed by the green color. What is the red zone in the zoning? Here basically all operations will have to be shut down immediately. Let's say in this particular region, a district or a state or a ward or a neighborhood, what happens? There is constant increase in the COVID-19 cases. Since there is constant increase, these people should not venture outside, because if they go outside, there could be an exponential increase of the COVID-19 cases. So this particular region is completely isolated and all activities in this region are completely shut down and people are not let to go outside this region. So what is being suggested by few doctors or epidemiologists is that in case there is a red zone, there needs to be massive testing, tracing and isolating of the individuals who have been infected by this disease. So what happens in this region? Complete shutdown or they are in isolation. Then there are those districts which are also given orange code. What is this orange code? Basically, under this, restrictions can be allowed but at varying levels. This is not completely isolated, but few clusters and pockets are allowed to function prospectively. And then what we have is the green color code which is given for a specific region. What is this green color code? This region is where there are no issues or no instances of COVID-19 patients and then they have completely recovered. So in this particular analogy, you have 3 different codes, red, orange and green, which is on the basis of intensity of the coronavirus transmission. This zoning can be utilized after we have a gradual withdrawal of the lockdown. So instead of putting the whole country into the lockdown mode once again after this period, an alternative suggestion could be zoning, where those areas which have high cases can be isolated and other areas can be put to work, is what is this article. Another link article is also given under this editorial given in Hindu. It says, to ease lockdown, what are the possible options? When you look into this article, if you're going to consider a relaxation, what one needs to do is rapid identification, isolation and testing, which means in case you're planning to withdraw the lockdown, you need to identify those clusters as we previously discussed. So those in the red zone will have to be identified and individuals will have to be identified, isolated, and the massive amount of testing has to be done. So the minute this is done, the ones who are impacted can be completely isolated, the others would be able to work in the near future. Another example given under this article is with respect to the Spanish flu of 1918. The Spanish flu of 1918 was also contagious. It had a similar impact as well, but the difference being the globalization is more these days, so the spread of this disease from one region to another region is comparatively more than that happened in the Spanish flu of 1918. But what we also need to look at is the retrospective studies with respect to the Spanish flu of 1918. With respect to all the data that is available and the statistical evidence that we have, what we can link with respect to Spanish flu of 1918 is, in order to end this disease, the most important factor that we have to consider is putting distance between people, so that this will ultimately contain the disease and also prevent the spread of it. One lesson that we can draw from this Spanish flu of 1918 is to maintain a distance between the people, so that we can ultimately bring a break with respect to its transmission. In the near future, the government will also have to take up a lot of responsibility, and the primary stakeholders will also have to be the private sector, the NGOs and the civil society and the people themselves. How? Let's take the example of public hygiene. The public hygiene is not only the responsibility of the government, but people need to be the active participants in this process. So what one needs to do is to increase or improve the public hygiene, deep clean of the shared spaces. So what needs to be done? Public hygiene has to be improved, and deep cleaning of the shared spaces, and the entire city will have to be kept clean. So people at the physical level will also have to take up some containing measures as well. They should avoid shaking hands with the people, and at the same time people should continue to use the mask, so that there is reduction in the spread of this disease. The nation and its people will also have to ensure that there is massive investment in the R&D sector, and there is expansion of the public and private healthcare infrastructure, and the workforce should be given necessary equipment, so that in case there is any future infection, they would be able to fight the menace of that contagious disease. It is this that we have to understand with reference to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article here is speaking about herd immunity. The other aspects with respect to this article has already been explained in the last 1 month. What is this herd immunity? This is also called as community immunity. It is also called as group protection or herd protection. What happens under this particular community immunity? Under this, let's say for example, there is a person X. This person X is infected by this COVID-19. He passes this infection to person Y. This person Y passes this infection to this person Z. So all the three people are affected by this particular pandemic. Now what happens over a period of time? They also recover. They recover in such a way that they are immune from this particular infection in the near future. So if many people who are infected by this particular infection become immune to this infection in the near future, such is what is called as herd immunity. In this herd immunity, there are two possible ways. One is what is called as natural immunity. The other is what is called as vaccinated immunity. What is this natural immunity? Let's say for example, this happens on a natural process. The body in itself has a natural mechanism to fight the microorganisms. The deadly impact of the microorganisms can be fought by the body through the mechanism of antibodies. So what are these antibodies? These are ones which produced in the body to fight the virus as well as other deadly microorganisms. The minute these antibodies are produced, they would be able to keep a check of this virus. They are something like the special safeguards that are present in the body, and they are also the memory capsules. In case it comes in the near future, there is attack by this virus in the near future, the natural immunity produced by these antibodies will fight that particular infection. And at the same time, in case there is vaccine that is produced in the global market, and if this vaccine is injected into this person, this also happens to produce that herd immunity, is what this article all about. Kindly note the percentage of people that must have immunity to slow this contagious disease and to stop an infectious disease is what is called as herd immunity threshold. This is all we have to understand with respect to this article. The rest of the analysis we have done in the past 1 month. Now let's look into the next article. This article says Indian laborers in GCC countries in dire need of help. When there is a political crisis, economic doldrum or health issue that surfaces in the Gulf region, the ones to suffer the most are the migrant workers. India has its diaspora in this region, and they might be impacted very badly due to economic and health crisis. Who are the people who will be hit by this? This includes nurses, small businessmen and laborers who moved from India to the Gulf region. Why do these people travel to the Gulf region? That is because of the economic prosperity it brings at the individual level and also at the family level. So as these people move from India to Gulf region, what they carry with them are the medicines which is required for multiple ailments. These medicines that they carry to the Gulf region will be a stock which can be used for about 4 months. Why do they carry these medicines? That is because medicines in the Gulf region are expensive and the cost of living in this region is comparatively on the higher level. But according to few statistics that we have received, these stocks have been used up and there is no acute shortage, and what we will witness in the near future is that these Indian migrants might suffer. Most of them are also put in congested labor camps, and in these congested labor camps they're asked to use common toilets, they're asked to share common rooms, and therefore what this can create is an atmosphere where this infection can spread at a massive level. So what we need to do is to ensure that our migrant citizens are brought back. So when these are brought back, what we will also see is reverse migration. What is this reverse migration? Before we understand this, we have to understand two concepts. One is inter-country migration from India to another country, and there is interstate migration. So when there are people who are living in some other country, let's say for example Gulf in the present scenario, when they come back to their home state, let's say for example to the state of Kerala, there would be interstate migration that has already taken place in India. So with respect to interstate migration, there could be people from the state of Odisha, there could be people from the state of Uttar Pradesh who would have moved to the state of Kerala. Now when there are people who are coming back from another country, these people from the state of Odisha and Uttar Pradesh will be asked to go back to their home state. So this is what is reverse migration. So there are one set of people who are coming back from a different country to India. So those people who are already in India from a different state are asked to go back to their home state. This is the concept of reverse migration. So what are the steps that the government of India has to take? The Gulf countries lack the broad-based healthcare facilities. So what one needs to do is that the Indian mission will have to cooperate and take maximum grants from the Indian government. So what the government will have to do is to convert these Indian schools that are present in the Gulf regions into isolation wards, so that the spread, as we discussed in the congested labor camps, can be comparatively reduced. And at the same time, these people will have to be evacuated on a priority basis, and they'll have to be got back home, and then they will have to be quarantined and will have to be isolated. And once they are back, they will also have to be given rehabilitation in the home society, and suitable health opportunities and economic opportunities should also be provided to these people, is what this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article says Punjab's cancer afflicted hit hard. In the late 50s and early 60s, India was hungry. Many slept with empty stomach. Imports of the agricultural items were maximum during this period. We needed to feed our people and find a solution to this hunger problem. So a network of politicians, scientists and philanthropists came up together and came up with a program called as Green Revolution. What is this Green Revolution? Under this Green Revolution, India had to switch from the traditional methods of farming to the modern methods of farming, which included use of pesticides, fertilizers, high yield crop varieties. Why? Because we had to fight hunger. So what are the examples of it? In the traditional agriculture, the plant protection operations basically involved weed control or pest control by manual intervention. So in the traditional setup, in case there is a weed in that region, people used to enter that particular region, remove this particular weed on a manual basis. But in the Green Revolution, what was replaced was replacement of manual programming by plant protection chemicals. So what was done manually was replaced by plant protection chemicals. Another important aspect of traditional agriculture is farmers abandoned their home produce seeds, organic manure and simple tools, and what they got shifted is use of inorganic fertilizers, chemicals and complex tools and equipment. What was the impact of this Green Revolution? We did meet the intended agenda and we became self-sufficient. Green Revolution ultimately transformed India into a food surplus country from a deficit one. But our people suffered. The success story of this Green Revolution turned into a tormenting reality with land and water contamination, showing a trickle-down effect on both economy and health. One such health crisis because of the Green Revolution is what is discussed under this article, which is known as cancer train. What is this cancer train? This is a particular train that runs between Bathinda and Bikaner in Punjab. So kindly remember, this cancer train runs from Bathinda to Bikaner in the state of Punjab. Why is this called as cancer train? That is because about 30 to 40% people who travel in this particular train are people who are suffering from cancer. So these people move from Bathinda to Bikaner to get treatment in Acharya Tulsi Regional Cancer Hospital and Research Center located in Bikaner, because lot many people who travel in this train are suffering from cancer. It is also called locally as cancer train. Also, what we need to remember is why has cancer increased in this region. Malwa happens to be one of the Punjab's cotton belt, and when it happens to be a cotton belt, cotton crops are usually prone to the pests. Farmers here at least use about 15 to 20 pesticide sprays. Why? Because they need maximum yield from the cotton, and for cotton, pests are the major deterrents. So in order to destroy these pests, what we need to use are the fertilizers. Studies have suggested that excessive and unregulated use of pesticides and fertilizers are the major reason for cancer among the citizens in this particular region. Most of the fertilizers and chemicals are used without any monitoring or guidance by the farmers, and ultimately the sufferers are the people. The equipment that is used by these farmers that are used to spray these pesticides are often washed into the rivers and the canals. Sometimes what also happens is these cans which has the spray are also used for saving of water, which is used for drinking purposes in the near future because of lack of awareness among the farmers. So all these things have proved that cancer is prevalent in this region. Therefore, various scientific studies and survey has proved that land and water is contaminated because of the presence of fertilizers and pesticides in this particular soil at a higher level than the permissible limit. This has caused a deep crisis of sustainability both on the economic front and on the ecological front. How has it impacted on the economical front? Let's say, for example, in the present scenario, the farmers are getting yield from a particular field. The yield over a period of time will drop. Why? Because the soil loses its fertility because of increase in the fertilizers. So what do the farmers do? They start increasing the fertilizers in this particular region. So more input is required for the farmer for less amount of yield. So the economic cost for the farmer is increased over a period of time. Followed by this, what we have is the loss of soil fertility, erosion of the soil toxicity increases, it diminishes the water resources, pollution of the underground water increases, all leading to the environmental causes as well. And at the same time, there are some of the natural enemies of the pests. What are these natural enemies? Let's say, for example, if there is a pest, this pest will be eaten naturally by frogs, insects, fish, or to some extent even by the spiders. When there is massive use of fertilizers and pesticides, what this can also lead to is killing these natural enemies of the pest like the frogs. So this will ultimately wipe out all the natural enemies of the pest as well. So this is the negative impact of the green revolution, and that is the link to the health as well as the economical aspect. It is this that we have to understand with reference to this article. Now let's look into some of the preliminary practice questions. Consider the following statements. State Election Commissioner is appointed by the President. State Election Commissioner shall not be removed from his office except in like manner and on the like ground as a judge of a high court. Which of the above statements is or correct? The answer to this is 2 only. Why? Because the State Election Commissioner is not appointed by the President. Instead, the State Election Commissioner is to be appointed by the Governor. Why have we taken this article? Because of the reference given in this article. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following statement. Project Elephant was launched by the Government of India in the year 1992 as a central sector scheme. The project is being mainly implemented in 16 states and union territories. Kerala has the highest number of elephants. Which of the above statements is or incorrect? It is asking for the incorrect statement. So the answer to this is 1 and 3 only. Why? Because the Project Elephant was launched by the central government, but it is a centrally sponsored scheme and not a central sector scheme. And Karnataka has the highest number of elephants, followed by Assam and Kerala, and it is not Kerala which has the highest number of elephants. Now let's look into the next practice question. With reference to GISAID, which of the following statements is correct? It is a public platform started by World Health Organization in 2008. The initiative promotes international sharing of all influenza virus sequences. The Federal Republic of Germany is the official host of the GISAID platform. The correct answer to this is 1, 2 and 3. Now let's look into the explanation. What does GISAID stands for? It stands for Global Initiative on Sharing All Influenza Data. It is a public platform started by World Health Organization in 2008 for countries to share genome sequences. What is GISAID? Is a collaboration involving representatives of the member states, scientists of the Global Influenza Surveillance and Response System and Global Influenza Program of the World Health Organization, and experts in the licensing intellectual property. So this initiative promotes international sharing of the virus sequences. So basically it will identify where this virus originated, it will identify from which species or this animal this virus came from, and it will also find out how this virus evolved, so that containment strategies can be brought about by this organization. Now let's look into the next practice question. The left bank tributaries of Yamuna include Chambal, Terns, Betwa, Kane and Hindon. The answer to this is 2 and 5 only. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference given under this article. Kindly note, what are the left bank tributaries? It is Hindon and Terns, and the right bank tributaries are Chambal, Betwa, Kane, Sindh and Baghane. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following are the discretionary powers given to the governor of a state. Sending a report to the President of India for imposing the President's rule. Yes, this is right. Appointing the ministers. No. Reserving certain bills passed by the state legislature for consideration of the President of India. Yes. Making the rules to conduct the business of the state government. No. So the answer to this is 1 and 3 only. Now let's look into the mains practice question. Lockdowns have been essential for containing the spread of coronavirus, but they are causing huge disruption and distress to lives around the world. What are the alternatives to contain the exponential growth of COVID-19 pandemic? Second question, Green Revolution has done more harm than good ecologically and on the health front? Comment. So please write all your answers on the comment section so that you guys can have a peer review and also come up with constructive criticism in case of any. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.